Chapter 1451, Year Gu Price War. A few days later, Central Continent, Spirit Affinity House. Zhao Lianyun spread her divine sense, inspecting her immortal aperture. Lianyun blessed land already looked different from before that a flower field was planted with a large amount of bright-eye flowers. This was the food of remembrance immortal Gu. It had to be planted. Besides this, there was also a small grassland where clear chance grass was planted. Stalks of the grass was small and pointy and were light green. Swallows were flying above this grassland. They were labor swallows, extremely hard-working and nimble birds. Their wings had 3 colors, in black, white, and red. Zhao Lianyun had specially brought in a batch of them to kill any insects on the clear chance grass. When clear chance grass grew, it would produce a kind of pest that would corrode the grass leaves, greatly reducing the profits. I have already spent most of my immortal essence stones. Zhao Lianyun sighed as she looked at the scene in front of her at the beginning. She had felt the number of immortal essence stones to be extremely huge, but when she started using it, she discovered that it was not much at all. Because she was not only nurturing 2 resources, she also had to create 2 complete ecological systems. Not only the seeds of bright-eye flowers and clear chance grass, she had to spend on soil, water, climate construction, and so on as well. Bright-eye flowers can only satisfy the food requirement of remembrance immortal Gu after a year in immortal aperture time. After 2 years, the clear chance grass and bright-eye flower transactions could give me several hundreds of immortal essence stones. After 3 years, I can repay Li Junying's loan. This progress and profit can only be achieved under the most ideal situation. And I have yet to calculate my other cultivation expenses. Zhao Lianyun fully sensed that Gu immortal cultivation was not easy. She was only cultivating 2 resources, and both grew separately and did not disturb each other. At the same time, the difficulty of nurturing plants was much less than raising beast groups or variant humans. Moreover, Zhao Lianyun had a high-grade blessed land, which had plenty of space path and time path resources. Most importantly, she was protected by divine concealment and was exempted from calamities and tribulations. She did not need to worry about this huge issue. The number of labor swallows is somewhat small. They cannot look after the whole grassland. I should buy some more. Zhao Lianyun connected to treasure yellow heaven and sent her divine sense. Over these days, she realized the convenience of treasure yellow heaven. Guts Gu. Zhao Lianyun quickly discovered someone selling Guts Gu. She knew Guts Gu was produced by Fang Yuan alone, but because its supply did not match demand, it had all along been sold in the black market of treasure yellow heaven. That is, someone would purchase a large amount of Guts Gu then sell them at a higher price. So the one selling this Guts Gu was not necessarily Fang Yuan. Moreover, the wills and identities of Gu immortals could be casually changed. Treasure yellow heaven gave safety and full freedom. So even Heavenly Court could only watch as Fang Yuan sold Guts Gu. Even if I can sell bright-eye flowers and clear chance grass after a few years, there will be other competitors as well. My products will be influenced by the market. Their prices also won't be able to compare to Guts Gu. Fang Yuan was Zhao Lianyun's enemy, so she had been paying attention to the Guts Gu trade. But the more attention she paid, the more she realized Fang Yuan's strength, which inevitably caused her to feel depressed. According to my current accumulation speed, I simply won't be able to catch up with Fang Yuan. Instead, I will continue to be left in the dust by him. Damn it, Zhao Lianyun gritted her teeth. Right at this time, for some reason, there was a huge uproar ahead. Large amounts of Gu immortal wills, which were originally scattered throughout treasure yellow heaven, were gathering in that direction. Zhao Lianyun's heart jolted. Could it be a large transaction? Li Junying said large transactions that can cause such an uproar are rare in treasure yellow heaven. Previously, it was when someone sold large amounts of year beasts. I did not expect my luck to be so good, to encounter one not long after becoming an immortal. Zhao Lianyun naturally did not want to give up on this chance to broaden her horizons. She also sent her divine sense to experience this event. Soon, she arrived at the scene. A Gu immortal will, which had an enormous physique looking like a fatty, was sitting cross-legged in air. Surrounding him were Year Gu, a vast number of Year Gu. So many Year Gu? It looks like there are over 100,000. Zhao Lianyun got a shock. This was the first time she had seen so many Year Gu piled up together. The huge quantity had quite a visual impact. Sister Li Juning was right. Mortal goo is only a matter of quantity to goo immortals. Zhao Lianyun sighed inwardly. What price are you selling these year goo for? A goo immortals will inquire about the price. That fat will replied with a smile, quoting a fair price, which immediately led to a discussion between the goo immortals. If there are no issues with these year goo, I definitely want to purchase some. This is time path mortal goo. They have a wide range of uses and can be used in refinement path or other aspects. The price is also fair. Maybe I should buy a bit more. Even if I don't use it for myself, I can resell it later. I don't have to worry about not being able to sell it. Who is this seller? Selling year goo at this time is an extremely good decision. According to the usual routine, it is not yet the time for the biggest sellers of year goo to bring out their products. Goo immortals discussed with each other. All kinds of divine senses and wills conversed together without maintaining secrecy, which allowed Zhao Lianyun to learn of a lot of things. She listened attentively and soon found this year goo seller might be a newcomer in Treasure Yellow Heaven. Although the current time of sales was slightly early, it would still be hard for him to avoid colliding with the traditional sellers. It was still okay if this seller was only selling this one time. But if he wanted to run this business for a long time and squeeze into Treasure Yellow Heaven's market, it would definitely lead to bloodshed. Zhao Lianyun's eyes brightened at this thought. If it was the latter situation, then this would no doubt be an event to pay attention to and learn from. I will also be selling my resources in the future and will have to make my way into Treasure Yellow Heaven's market. My resources are not unique, so I will definitely have to go through this obstacle. There are only a few monopolistic businesses in the whole goo immortal world. Not everyone can have luck like Fang Yuan. I need to observe this properly, especially this year goo trade. I might learn a lot of things. Zhao Lianyun instructed herself. The scene was bustling. Many goo immortals started purchasing year goo. Time path goo worms had a wide range of usage, so they always had a high demand in the market. After each transaction was completed, the profits quickly accumulated to an extent which caused some of the goo immortals to become red with envy. Just by a rough estimation, this seller has at least profited 50,000 immortal essence stones in this short period of time. Zhao Lianyun was inwardly shocked, but the real shocking thing came later. This seller was selling continuously, while also continuously replenishing the products. Many year goo were sold, but in the surroundings of the fat will, the quantity of year goo did not decrease and was instead increasing. Oh heavens, how many year goo does this man have? My goodness, this is a huge transaction. This person is here for blood. The main sellers of year goo have always been Xie Baoshu, Rong Xian, and Wang Mingyu. If this is not handled well, it will definitely lead to a price war. Zhao Lianyun felt increasing anticipation as she listened to the discussions. This mysterious seller was strongly putting his foot in the market. The three main sellers definitely would not take this lying down. A price war concerning year goo was going to start. Chapter 1452. Three Sellers. Eastern Sea. Clear sea area. A jade pavilion stood by itself in the depths of the sea, emitting aura of a rank 6 immortal goo house. Inside the jade pavilion, goo immortal Xie Baoshu was hosting his close friend, Yu Xianzi. Looking at the large patches of vicissitude trees outside the jade pavilion, Yu Xianzi said with a moved tone, "It is time to harvest year goo once again. The growth of these vicissitude trees is much more vigorous than the previous year. Looks like your method of growing these resources has made another breakthrough." Xie Baoshu was handsome and had a warm nature. He rubbed his nose, smiling. "You don't need to flatter me." Yu Xianzi laughed. "I am just worrying about you. Don't you know someone is already selling year goo in Treasure Yellow Heaven?" Xie Baoshu was silent as he took out a mortal year goo and handed it to Yu Xianzi. Yu Xianzi received it and took a glance. Good. This rank 5 year goo's quality is pretty good. It is glossy and healthy. It is quite appealing. Xie Baoshu slightly shook his head. "This year goo was not raised by me. It is from that seller." "I see." Yu Xianzi was slightly surprised. Before quickly accepting this fact, he knew his friend very well. Xie Baoshu was a well-known lone cultivator in Eastern Sea's goo immortal world. He had unique insights on growing vicissitude trees. Vicissitude trees were an immortal material, but their usage was very narrow. Despite being an immortal material, because they had many kinds of Tao marks, they were very impure So few Gu immortals paid attention to this tree. But Xie Baoshu found new ways of using them. He planted this tree on a large scale, and using an ingenious method, he used vicissitude trees to raise and attract wild Yirgu. Now, he was one of the 3 giants of the Yirgu market. He only put a small portion of these Yirgu in treasure yellow heaven. The larger portion was sold to various super forces of Eastern Sea. Even so, Xie Baoshu would not easily give up treasure yellow heaven's market, because this was the whole world's market, and from a certain aspect, treasure yellow heaven could be said to be much more significant than those Eastern Sea super forces. Now that someone was suddenly entering the Yirgu market, making huge transactions, how could Xie Baoshu just watch from the sidelines? Although it was still not time for him to sell Yirgu, he had always been paying attention to the situation of the Yirgu market. I have examined this Yirgu. It is indeed a high-grade item. This time, the opponent is not a simple one. Xie Baoshu sighed. Yu Xianzi nodded. With such a huge amount, some region's superforce might be involved in this. It is very difficult for an individual to take out so many of them. Didn't you also climb up by accumulating your strength step by step? Xie Baoshu smiled. Oh you, why are you encouraging me in a roundabout way? Among the 3 sellers, only I am a lone cultivator. Because of this, I could only move step by step, facing setbacks along the way and getting past them to create a solid foundation. What difficulties have I not encountered? This time will also not be an exception. Moreover, Yu Xianzi finished his words. Moreover, you 3 have already reached an agreement. Every business has its own hidden rules. This newcomer might have come aggressively, but he has broken the hidden rules. He will probably be suppressed and forced out by you 3, right? Ha ha. I really cannot hide anything from you. You rat who specializes in stealing oil. Xie Baoshu jokingly scolded while pointing at Yu Xianzi's nose. Northern Plains, Lenya Blessed Land. Cloud City. Inside a secret room, Fang Yuan had been sitting cross-legged without moving for several days. These last days, he had been activating rank 8 time path immortal Gu years flow like water. He had obtained this immortal Gu from He Fan's true inheritance. Even rank 6 Gu immortals could activate it, but the effect would be limited. Now, Fang Yuan was continuously pouring his rank 7 red date immortal essence into years flow like water, constantly producing mortal Yirgu, and these Yirgu were then moved to treasure yellow heaven's market. He let his will stabilize the situation and carry out Yirgu transactions with other Gu immortals. Indeed, he was the newcomer who had been selling large amounts of Yirgu. He was extremely aggressive, not only creating an uproar in treasure yellow heaven, he even made Xie Baoshu and the others feel apprehension. Fang Yuan had borrowed over 1,730,000 immortal essence stones. He turned them into red date immortal essence, which he made full use of in the Yirgu business. Rank 8 years flow like water was too amazing. It not only produced a lot of mortal Gu, their quality was also good. The market response had been extremely good these few days. After buying some, many Gu immortals felt that the goods were pretty good. They would find Fang Yuan to purchase another batch. Right at this time, Fang Yuan's activation of years flow like water paused for a moment. He had all along been maintaining his connection to treasure yellow heaven, and had just received a message from his will, which he had placed in treasure yellow heaven, that there was a super force which wanted to purchase Fang Yuan's goods in bulk quantity, but was afraid Fang Yuan would not be able to supply them, so they wanted to discuss with his main body. If it was possible, they could establish long-term cooperation. This news could be true, but could also be false. There is a higher chance that this message is sent by those traditional Yirgu sellers using a disguised identity. Fang Yuan sneered, completely disregarding this message. Long-term cooperation? Fang Yuan was not interested. He wanted to wage war this time. Central Continent. Rong Xin was silent. The seller is actually not interested in my proposal? Rong Xin was quite surprised. He had disguised as a huge buyer to try to communicate with Fang Yuan personally and glean his background. But Fang Yuan actually ignored him. How can this be? Even if he is a representative of a super force, they would also hope that their Yirgu would have much larger buyers. Unless he does not have many Yirgu left. Rong Xin was a member of the 10 great ancient sects, and as a righteous path member, he naturally understood the thoughts of righteous path Gu immortals and super forces. He pondered and felt this guess was very likely. It must be because of this that this mysterious seller is selling Yirgu this early. It is to avoid us 3 sellers. He refused even my proposal. He probably really does not have much stock left. Actually, the amount of Yirgu he has sold is only 1/10 of what I have in stock. Hee. Rong Xian chuckled when he thought of this. This is a good method to gain attention. He commented in his head on Fang Yuan's action. Unfortunately, what use is it if you don't have enough strength? Southern border, Dragon Return Valley. The rumbling of a waterfall echoed in the valley. Mist permeated and the vegetation thrived. Wang Mingyu, an external supreme elder of the Righteous Path Superforce Yao clan, was standing on a giant boulder, gazing at the waterfall. This waterfall was not ordinary. It was a tributary of the River of Time. Yirgu has 3 great sellers. Eastern Seas Xie Baoshu uses vicissitude, trees, to nurture Yirgu. Central Continent's Rong Xian uses refinement path methods to periodically refine countless Yirgu. But only I have a grasp over a tributary of the River of Time. I can capture natural wild Yirgu. Wang Mingyu inwardly compared herself to them. This tributary of the River of Time was rather special. It was a tributary that had forked from the middle of the River of Time. The River of Time had many special river segments. For instance, the Swordblade River segment. It was a special river segment that was personally set up by Red Lotus Demon Venerable, using the past, Shi Yuan's sword aura, and Dao Ju Lang's blade aura to protect one of his stone lotus islands. The Yir River segment was filled with countless wild Yirgu. Wang Mingyu had discovered this tributary back when she had been a lone immortal and had secretly managed it. But several years later, Southern Border's Righteous Path forces discovered it and were naturally covetous. After a secret exchange, Yao Clan won, and Yao Clan Gu immortal Yao Tianze married Wang Mingyu. With this reason, Yao Clan openly took this Dragon Return Valley as their territory. This year's harvests are pretty good. The amount of Yirgu captured is actually 30% higher than normal. The other 2 are not making a move? Then I shall start first. If I continue letting that newcomer sell his Yirgu, it will probably not be easy for me to sell all these wild Yirgu. Wang Mingyu put her thoughts into action and began selling her Yirgu in Treasure Yellow Heaven. Her move immediately caused an uproar in Treasure Yellow Heaven. One of the 3 main sellers of Yirgu, Wang Mingyu, has made a move. If that mysterious seller is allowed to continue selling Yirgu, the sellers after him definitely won't have an easy time selling Yirgu. This will be quite a show, right? That mysterious seller is selling so many Yirgu. The 3 main sellers definitely have a hard time being patient. Now that Wang Mingyu has made a move, the other 2 won't stand still. Let's wait and see. There might even be a price war. US buyers can pick up some benefits. Many Gu immortals secretly communicated. Chapter 1453. Price War. Wang Mingyu took out her stock. Only Fang Yuan alone had been supplying Yirgu in a large amount in Treasure Yellow Heaven over these last days. Now with one more competitor, it immediately caused a stir. Women are women after all, not even having this bit of patience. Central Continent's Rong Xian scoffed when he obtained this news. With this, many Gu immortals will probably choose to watch. He had plentiful experience in selling Yirgu, and could immediately guess the changes in the market. Sure enough, the fervor of buying Yirgu in Treasure Yellow Heaven suddenly fell. Wang Mingyu became Fang Yuan's competitor, which all of a sudden caused the supply of Yirgu to be greater than demand. Other Gu immortals were now keeping patient, waiting to see a good show. A storm was brewing in Treasure Yellow Heaven in previous years. The sale of Yirgu had always been a hot business. This year, with Yirgu being sold ahead of time, the situation had now become desolate, with almost no one showing any interest. Wang Mingyu was helpless about this. There was no other way. She had a huge stock of Yirgu. If she did not start now and waited for the other 2 sellers to start selling, there would be a much smaller market for her goods. Wang Mingyu is actually selling ahead of time? Different from Rong Xian's passive stance, Xie Baoshu was hesitating. Xie Baoshu understood Wang Mingyu. This person was a veteran seller with plenty of experience. How could she not see the disadvantage of selling early? Most probably, she also has a lot of Yirgu on her. Xie Baoshu did not show anything on the surface, but was inwardly getting worried. A day later, he finally decided to take action, putting Yirgu for sale in Treasure Yellow Heaven. Xie Baoshu has also made a move. Two of the three main sellers are already selling their goods ahead of time. Of course, this year is different from the past. There is now a fourth gladiator in the arena. Within Treasure Yellow Heaven, the Gu immortals discussed, damn it, these two. When Rong Xian obtained news of this, he could only follow while gritting his teeth. The situation was already different from before. Previously, Fang Yuan was selling by himself. Rong Xian could endure this and remained unmoved. When Wang Mingyu joined, Rong Xian only felt slightly tensed. But with Xie Baoshu also joining in, the pressure on Rong Xian had increased. Among the four sellers, if he alone did not take action, then the one who suffered the most would no doubt be him. It was just that he had his own difficulties. His year Gu were the results of refinement, because there was not a set time like past years. His stock had not been accumulated enough. So he had the least amount of stock among the four sellers. Forced by the situation, Rong Xian could only grit his teeth and put his year Gu for sale in Treasure Yellow Heaven. I have the least amount of stock. I cannot act forcefully. Rong Xian already had a hunch. What he needed now was time to refine much more year Gu. Thinking of this, he contacted Xie Baoshu and Wang Mingyu. These three knew each other for many years, competing and communicating with each other about year Gu business, and naturally had each other's information path Gu worms. Although there is a newcomer, I think us three should still act according to the old agreement. Isn't that so? Rong Xian reminded the two. Xie Baoshu and Wang Mingyu naturally agreed. They had already broken some terms of the old agreement by selling year Gu early. But since this was a special situation, it could be understood. But if they broke other terms, especially the one about price of year Gu, that would be breaking the rules. With more sellers, there would naturally be a price war. This was a powerful method of a price war. But if it was used too strongly, it would hurt themselves. Xie Baoshu, Wang Mingyu, and Rong Xian had already competed with each other countless times, but they never changed the agreed price. Besides not being able to do anything to the other party, the main reason was to protect their benefits. This created a problem that if Fang Yuan's side suddenly dropped the price, what should they do? These three could obey the agreement, but Fang Yuan was a newcomer. Even if Rong Xian persuaded him, he might not listen. But Rong Xian, Xie Baoshu, and Wang Mingyu were seemingly not worried about this. With four sellers supplying year Gu, Fang Yuan immediately felt his sales becoming stagnant. I am a newcomer after all. Although my goods are of top quality, how could my status compare to those three main sellers in other Gu immortals' hearts? Wang Mingyu, Xie Baoshu, and Rong Xian were in this business for many years already. They had good reputation among the public. Fang Yuan could absolutely not compare in this aspect. This was where Fang Yuan was disadvantaged in. But Fang Yuan had his methods to resolve it. Soon, at almost the same time, Rong Xian, Xie Baoshu, and Wang Mingyu obtained a significant news. That mysterious seller was beginning to drop the price of year Gu. He went for this after all. I still thought he had some other methods. They were not anxious, even feeling somewhat disdainful. They had long grown out of this action of decreasing the price, and had even suffered a lot because of this in a price war. Taking the initiative to reduce the price was a double-edged sword. It would hurt others and hurt oneself as well. But as far as buyers were concerned, Fang Yuan reducing the price was no doubt good news. That weren't they waiting for this kind of opportunity? They were like hungry sharks that immediately swarmed in. Fang Yuan's year Gu began to sell in large amounts, forming a stark contrast with Xie Baoshu, Wang Mingyu, and Rong Xian's. The other side seems to be an experienced veteran. This price reduction is quite to the standard. It gives a feeling of being a lot, but actually is not that much. Wang Mingyu had been observing the situation. But so what? The year Gu market of the whole of Treasure Yellow Heaven is extremely big. How can you supply to the buyers of the whole 5 regions by yourself? In the end, the one to suffer will be yourself. We can clearly sell at a higher price. The 3 main sellers maintained their price, but several days later, they could not sit still. What's going on? This guy has so many year Gu. It almost seems to be endless. How could he accumulate so many year Gu? Something's wrong here. The moods of the 3 main sellers had become slightly heavy, but should they follow and reduce their price? They were hesitant to in the end. They had different mentalities. Fang Yuan was a newcomer. However much he earned would be fresh income. But these 3 main sellers were old veterans. and had a rough estimation of their profits every year, so if they were to reduce the price, their expected profits would decrease. Hesitation was natural. Several days later, Fang Yuan sales were still going on fiercely. The three main sellers saw the situation was going in an unfavorable direction. Wang Mingyu was the first to discuss with the other two if they should also reduce the price. Xie Baoshu had a cold expression. Looking at this situation, this guy probably has enough stock. If we don't reduce our price, we simply won't be able to sell. That's right, Wang Mingyu added. This person's methods are not simple. He reduced the price just enough to suppress us three. Rong Xian snorted. Whether we lose profits or not, it will have to be seen after selling all the year gu. If we decrease the price too much, even if we sell a lot, we will still lose massive profits overall. What is the point of that? He did not approve of this method, still wanting to wait patiently for a while more. There was no other way. He did not have much stock. If he reduced the price, there would be a lot of buyers and his goods would be all sold. When others learned he was out of stock so early, his image and reputation would be damaged, but he could not do anything about it. Since the other two wanted to reduce the price, Rong Xian could only follow them. Chapter 1454, Commotion in Treasure Yellow Heaven. The price fell. As Fang Yuan's price fell, Xie Baoshu and the other sellers had to lower their prices too after a few days. However, they did not lower their prices much. They were in sync, at the same price as Fang Yuan. I am a newcomer in the year-gu business. My identity is mysterious and unknown. Compared to me, Xie Baoshu, Rong Xian, and Wang Mingyu are reputed figures with many years of experience. They are deeply trusted. Thus, as long as they lower their prices to match me, those who want to buy year-gu will approach them instead. Fang Yuan knew deeply about the plan of Xie Baoshu and the rest. This was the advantage that Xie Baoshu and the rest had over Fang Yuan. Their years of being in the business had deeply affected the buyers. It was not a joke. However, so what if they do this? Fang Yuan smiled lightly. On the day Xie Baoshu and the rest lowered their prices, Fang Yuan lowered his price again. The Gu immortals in Treasure Yellow Heaven were focusing on this huge price war. The moment Fang Yuan lowered his price, news spread rapidly. Before long, many of the forces and Gu immortals concerned about this matter learned about it. After hearing that Xie Baoshu lowered his price, I wanted to buy from him. After all, I do that every year. True, except I prefer Rong Xian's goods. But that fourth seller lowered his price again. He is truly rich. He wants to challenge the three main sellers. The buyers were overjoyed and relaxed. In this price war, they were the ones who benefited the most. Staying on the fence and watching this show, it was a very joyful thing to see the same price level. Fang Yuan was not their match, but the moment he lowered his prices, his advantage became huge. After all, Fang Yuan's goods were very high quality and cheap. Would those Gu immortals be so stupid as to buy expensive goods instead? Thus for the following day, Fang Yuan's business was booming. The other three sellers had no business. After hearing this, Central Continent Gu immortal Rong Xian laughed, coldly of course, that he spoke with the other two. Very interesting. This person really wants to challenge us to a price war. Wang Mingyu smiled. All these years, nobody could match our status. This time, I want to see how strong this person is. Xie Baoshu added. Then let us lower our prices too. There was nothing to say. Since Fang Yuan reduced his prices, the other three sellers followed. Their price was the same as Fang Yuan's year gu. They had hesitated earlier already. Since Fang Yuan was initiating the war, the three Gu immortals were confident in their finances. They followed relentlessly. During the second price reduction, there was a small commotion in Treasure Yellow Heaven. The rest of the Gu immortals started to get excited, because they knew that this was only the second price fall. The war had just started. There was going to be a third and fourth time later. But it will depend on the mysterious fourth seller on when he reduces his price again. Any price reduction is a fall in profits for the seller himself. Earlier, the fourth seller initiated the war. While the three main sellers have no fear in joining in, they had full confidence in themselves. That's right. The third reduction might be coming soon, but we do not know when. The Gu immortals conversed among each other. Normally speaking, it was very common to reduce prices in such situations, but there was an interval between each reduction, because the seller needs to observe the market and think about the decisions to make. Reducing the price was a double-edged sword. It could undercut the competitors, but it would harm one's own benefits if the sellers saw good prospects in the market. They might not reduce prices anymore. They needed to defend their own benefits. If they reduced the prices further, even if they increased the quantity sold, they would not earn much profits. After all, competitors would reduce prices too. If the sellers refused to give in and constantly reduce prices, competing without restraint, they would collapse together. There were basically no Gu immortals who would do this and ruin the market for everyone. The sellers were not stupid. They wanted to earn profits. If they only cared about competition and disregarded profits, why would they sell anything? Sellers were smart, but buyers were intelligent too. After the three sellers reduced their price to Fang Yuan's level, they stopped buying. The sales of Gu became very pathetic. Because the most crucial person in this price war was Fang Yuan, and the moment Fang Yuan reduced his price, they would buy a bit. Why? Firstly, in terms of prices, Fang Yuan selling at a lower price would be more beneficial to them. Of course, they were encouraging him to continue competing with the three sellers and reduce prices. Eventually, Fang Yuan will be unable to endure it because the one to lower the prices will suffer losses. But after the prices reach the lower limit, the buyers would benefit the most if the four sellers end up at the same price. They would not buy the Gu from Fang Yuan. A price war made good use of such psychological tactics. After the second price reduction, the four sellers reached the same price again. Fang Yuan's actions were out of expectations. He was paying close attention to treasure yellow heaven. The moment the three sellers reduced their price, he reacted and reduced his own price again. Many people were astonished. Fang Yuan's reaction was simply too fast, and from his speed, many people could sense his firm and determined attitude. He is well prepared for this. Reverend Insanity sighed. He felt a little pressure as he had the least stock among the sellers. Towards the later stages of this price war, when the commodity prices are low, sales would boom. By then, if he had low stock, it would be very awkward. There are buyers but no goods. Not only would he be out of the game, buyers would think of him as unreliable. His reputation accumulated over the years would be ruined. Reverend Insanity did not want that to happen. He asked others to refine Gu at full speed to replenish his stock, while thinking if he should reduce prices again. More specifically, if he should reduce the price until his competitors could not and dare not try to follow him, because it would result in major losses. But he would not lower prices by too much. Buyers must continue to think that they could continue watching without doing anything. In that case, as long as he had enough time, Reverend Insanity could replenish his stocks and win at the final moments of the price war. However, in this case, if I reduce prices drastically, the other two parties will know that I do not have much stock now. Reverend Insanity was very hesitant. Since he could think of this to alleviate his crisis, the other two parties were also experienced sellers. They could naturally deduce his current situation. Deductions were not hard to do. People with experience were sensitive to such changes. That way, if Reverend Insanity did this, he would be exposing his weakness. He would likely get kicked out of the game earlier. Thus, not only was he hesitant, he had a headache, a huge headache, because he needed to think about the buyer and seller mentality while also paying attention to his competitors. Right when he was hesitant and indecisive, Xie Baoshu and Wang Mingyu lowered their prices again. The price fell like earlier, maintained at the same level as Fang Yuan. They had sufficient stock, especially Wang Mingyu. They were not anxious. Since Fang Yuan wanted to compete and reduce prices, they would follow. After all, they would gain the market share if prices were equal. They had a huge advantage. This was the third drop in prices. After hearing news, Fang Yuan laughed heartily as cold light shone in his eyes. In that case, I will speed things up. This time, he lowered prices again. And this fall was drastic, far beyond the earlier rounds. This time, there was a huge commotion in treasure yellow heaven. The buyers were excited. This was the result that they wanted. They had waited so long for this victorious moment. It fell by this much? Xie Baoshu had a solemn expression. He could feel Fang Yuan's overpowering attitude. If the earlier few rounds were light punches, this was a heavy kick. But Xie Baoshu had to react to it, that if not, he would be kicked out of this war. Buyers had no loyalty after all. Price wars were very cruel. Xie Baoshu was the first to lower prices, followed by Wang Mingyu as they reached the same prices again. Reverend Insanity had a huge headache. He had wanted to drop his prices drastically earlier, but in his moment of hesitation, the opponent acted before he did anything. This way, not only would his earlier plans be ruined, if he wanted to go ahead with it, he would need to reduce his prices even further, but that would be a dangerous price, because if it becomes lower than the usual year-go sale price of previous years, the buyers would start buying enthusiastically. Or maybe that mysterious seller has little stock. He has the same plan as me. Rong Xian had his final bit of hope. He was the last to reduce his price, following the other three. They all lowered their prices. Ha ha. The buyers were very happy, but the happiest part had yet to come. When Rong Xian lowered his price, Fang Yuan continued to lower his year-go price again. And this time, it was even larger than before. Treasure Yellow Heaven was in a commotion. The three sellers were shocked. This will be a tough one. Xie Baoshu had a grim expression. He was originally relaxed and cool. He acted casually and without emotions. But now he could not contain himself anymore. Fang Yuan reduced the prices and shrunk the profits of the year-go business. For the three sellers, if they followed, they would suffer great loss of profits. He is going all out. Wang Mingyu was tongue-tied. She had a chilly feeling. She had not felt this for a long time already. Chapter 1455, Victor. Rong Xian's lingering bit of hope was smashed, because he knew that the other party was not like him. They had ample stock, and this price would definitely create a huge commotion in the sale of year-go this time round. I lost this time. Rong Xian smiled bitterly. He had no choice but to give up due to his low quantity. Forget about excuses. Losses were often justified with reasoning. But people in this world did not care about reasons. They did not need your excuses. They only cared about victory or loss. Like what Rong Xian expected, after Fang Yuan lowered his price, there was a huge wave of commotion and purchases. Many buyers started to purchase year-go. Such a cheap price was rarely seen. If they did not make use of this chance, how could they? Huge transactions were ongoing. Fang Yuan was raking in huge profits. But the other three parties did not follow him. Xie Baoshu and Wang Mingyu were hesitant. Earlier, Rong Xian hesitated. It was now their turn that if they followed Fang Yuan and lowered their prices too, their year-go would be sold rapidly as well. But if they did that, the profits would become too small. It would be far from their original expectations. But if they did not follow him, Fang Yuan would steal their business away. What should they do? The key to this was how much stock Fang Yuan had left. If Fang Yuan had excessive stock, Xie Baoshu and the rest would need to follow him. The market was only this big. There was only a limited amount of demand. The more Fang Yuan sold, the less they would sell. But if Fang Yuan had insufficient stock, Xie Baoshu and the rest would not need to lower prices. They just need to wait. After he finishes his stock, they would be able to sell at a higher price later. Their profits would be retained. They would win this fight after all. Thus, Xie Baoshu and the rest started to think, who was this Fang Yuan exactly? Was he a man or a woman? Was he part of a force? Or an individual? Why was there no information about him earlier? Why did he appear out of nowhere? They could not understand that he appeared too suddenly. Actually, other than the three of them, the year-go market had other smaller sellers. But these people were quickly eliminated by them, because they could not be the seller now. Right now, those small business owners probably have pale expressions while watching this intense price war. Thinking of this, Rong Xian's mood became slightly better. He was unlucky and would likely be the first person out of this race. But there were even more unlucky people besides him. It made him feel a little better in comparison. But he was just consoling himself that it could not affect the reality of things, and no matter how they thought about it. The three sellers could not decipher Fang Yuan's background. To play safe, Xie Baoshu and Wang Mingyu decided to follow after Fang Yuan and reduce prices too, until they match him. But Rong Xian did not follow them. It seems that Rong Xian thinks the seller does not have much stock, Xie Baoshu thought. But he did not know that Rong Xian was out of options, that he had little stock. If he reduced prices by that much, the heated sales would deplete his stock. He would be out of the competition. He would rather keep his prices and take a gamble that if Fang Yuan had little stock, he would win and continue to stay in this, that if not, he would lose. But that was no different from lowering prices anyway. Xie Baoshu did not know about Rong Xian's problem. He felt that he was gambling on Fang Yuan not having enough year-go. But Xie Baoshu had a stable mindset. He wanted to follow because that was the safest option.As for Wang Mingyu. After some consideration, she also made the same choice as Xie Baoshu. But with her woman's intuition, she had more suspicions, she thought. Why did Rong Xian not lower his price? Is he making a gamble, or does he know the other party's background, or does he have any evidence or news about it? If Rong Xian knew about Fang Yuan's background, it was possible that he would not tell the two of them about it. He was sitting on the fence and watching. This was advantageous to Rong Xian. Thus, Wang Mingyu contacted Rong Xian and tried to probe him. Rong Xian received Wang Mingyu's transmission and felt helpless about it. He felt some sympathy towards her. Overall, he had a complex emotion now. Thus, the current situation was Fang Yuan, Xie Baoshu, and Wang Mingyu had the same price, while Rong Xian's price was higher than them. At this time, large numbers of Gu immortals started to buy Year Gu, or started to prepare to buy them. Everyone was moved. This price was lower than ever before. It was an alluring price. Wait for an even lower price. The buyers shook their heads. It could not go much lower anymore. The buyers were smart, but the sellers were not stupid either. Thus, when Fang Yuan lowered his price again, everyone was stunned. Did I hear wrongly? They lowered the price again, and by such a huge amount. Oh my, what is going on? Is this new seller stupid? The buyers were in disbelief. I do not care if he is stupid or has other objectives. I know that his Year Gu are genuine products, and he is selling at this price indeed. If I do not buy now, I will be the fool. A Gu immortal cried out in his mind, but others were like this too. A huge amount of Gu immortal divine senses or wills surrounded Fang Yuan's stall. The heated scene was unprecedented. Buy. The Gu immortals were filled with this thought. It had never been this cheap before. If they wait until that fool realizes his prices are too low, it would be too late. The buyers felt a strong sense of urgency. What is this person doing? After seeing this, Xie Baoshu lost his cool. If he followed this price, his profits would be reduced to just a sliver. For example, in previous years, if a Year Gu could earn 100 each, if he follows Fang Yuan's price, he would only get single-digit profits per Gu. Why did he spend so much effort on growing vicissitude trees? Wasn't it to nurture Year Gu and earn profits? If he reduced his prices to Fang Yuan's level, his profits would be gone. This price was way below his bottom line. If he had to sell at this price, he would rather keep the goods. But Xie Baoshu frowned. He fell into deep contemplation. At the same time, Wang Mingyu was worried. Her situation was the same as Xie Baoshu. If she followed Fang Yuan, her profits would be unacceptable. But should she stop selling? It was not so simple. If they did not follow and Fang Yuan's stock was huge, the market in Treasure Yellow Heaven would be completely taken over by Fang Yuan. There was another possibility. Fang Yuan was purposely lowering the price as a tactic. It was possible that he had only purposely lowered it this much to probe the other sellers, or to raise his own reputation. If I do not follow, I would be showing weakness, but I can preserve my strength. If I follow him, I would be clashing with that newcomer in a crazy manner. After thinking about it for a while, Wang Mingyu decided to follow him. But at this time, Xie Baoshu had already stopped. The sale price of the Year Gu in the market was lowest at Fang Yuan and Wang Mingyu, followed by Xie Baoshu and Rong Xian at the highest. Evidently, nobody was buying from those two shops. Most of the buyers were at Fang Yuan's and Wang Mingyu's shops. Xie Baoshu was observing the situation. He needed to know if Fang Yuan was putting up a front or if he really had the foundation. Wang Mingyu was very nervous because this sale price was losing her a lot of profits. And among the three sellers, she was the only one left. Rong Xian became the most relaxed person. He was watching them fight. It is about time to deal the final blow. Fang Yuan was very calm. At this point, he had probed the bottom line of these three sellers, even though Wang Mingyu was still contesting with him. According to the usual market situation, the three sellers were about the same level. Even if Wang Mingyu was superior, it was not by much. Thinking of this, Fang Yuan lowered his price again. But this time, he only reduced it by a tiny little bit. However, this small drop in price was like a sharp blade stabbing into the three sellers' hearts. Rong Xian turned pale. Xie Baoshu squinted with a dark expression on his face. Wang Mingyu clenched her fists. She gritted her teeth and said in shock, "Why? Why go this far?" Fang Yuan's drop in price was small, but very fatal. It was lower than the cost price of these three sellers. Since year gu was being sold, there were costs involved in obtaining them. Rong Xian needed gu materials. He spent immortal essence to refine them using gu refinement methods. Xie Baoshu had vicissitude trees. He also needed manpower and resources. Even though Wang Mingyu could capture year gu from the tributary of the River of Time, the method used required immortal essences, and funds were needed to manage the tributary of the River of Time. Selling below the cost price, that would be a true loss. This was a move usually done by those who had a surplus of stock and could not sell them, or if they had an urgent need for funds. This was a desperate choice that if one did this in a price war, the competitors might be fine, but the person themselves would suffer a major loss first. This was too harsh. It was harsh to others, and also harsh to themselves. Wang Mingyu was shocked. She did not dare to follow him. She would be an idiot if she did. This was year gu. The gu was actually sold at a loss. What did that mean? The buyers were shocked too. This price was out of their imaginations. They were tongue-tied, completely in disbelief. But soon, the gu immortals present reacted. Treasure Yellow Heaven was in a huge commotion. Countless gu immortals surrounded Fang Yuan's stall tightly. The situation was completely chaotic and heated. This was no longer about buying. They were earning profits. Buying year gu at this price, according to usual market prices, they were buying it at a profit. Countless transactions were undergoing. Even those who already bought year gu came back and purchased from Fang Yuan again. Fang Yuan's business was unthinkably booming. The other three sellers were completely ousted. They were in pathetic states. But at this time, the three sellers stopped being anxious. Who is this newcomer? He is so fierce in his moves, but I am afraid he is messed up now. Hee. Observe. I will observe. I refuse to believe that he can maintain the price of the year gu at this low level. The three sellers were waiting for the time when Fang Yuan's losses became too severe, but Fang Yuan could go on endlessly because he was using rank 8 immortal gu. Years flow like water. The cost behind the production of year gu was merely his immortal essence used to activate the rank 8 immortal gu. Fang Yuan's production had costs, of course, but his cost was far lower. Compared to the three sellers, if their cost price was 10, his was only 3 or 4 to anyone could sell year gu. The quality of the goods was similar in most cases. The competition here was really only dependent on their cost. Fang Yuan sold at this price, but he could still earn profits, while the three sellers would sell at a loss. They were unable to sell, but Fang Yuan could dump his stock. The victor of this price war was decided from the start. It was undoubtedly Fang Yuan.